it surprised me how much I enjoyed seeing English on Broadway. I think that Sanaz Toossi, who wrote the show, has done a phenomenal job. I mean, it shouldn't surprise me because this show did win the 2023 Pulitzer Prize for drama. And I want Sanaz Toossi to not only be nominated for a Tony, but I think that she is also really deserving of a win. I mean, I haven't seen every single show this Tony season yet, but based on the ones that I've seen, I would give it to Sanaz Toossi. The script is that good, in my opinion. And I thought that Knud Adams, the director of it, did a very good job at taking this setting, which is English as a foreign language class. They're practicing for the TOEFLs. It's a small class in Iran in 2008, and making this setting feel very familiar. And I thought that that was so impressive. I mean, as I was leaving the theater, I could overhear several people having conversations about like, oh, I remember being in French class, or I remember taking Spanish in high school, and we're like, oh yeah, it was so difficult to learn a new language. And I thought that that was so special. And it got me reflecting on being in that classroom environment and struggling to learn a language that was not my own native one. And I thought that this show did a fantastic job at also going deeper into language and what language means for someone's identity and personality. The play is predominantly in English. I mean, it's like 99.9997% in English. And here's something that's important to note, because I can see some people being confused by this, but there's a really interesting choice. The actors speak English accented, and they also speak English without an accent. And that's to represent, within the world of the show, the character switching from Farsi to practicing English. And I kept thinking, I was like, okay, well, why wouldn't, because there's great technology now where they could probably have the actor speaking Farsi and then have closed captions in English that the audience can follow along with. But I soon figured out that that's not the point of what they were trying to say when it comes to language. And I thought that that was a really cool technique. And I loved also exploring the characters' different reasons for being in that class. I mean, they're all working towards taking the TOEFL, which is the test of English as a foreign language. And they all are doing it for different reasons. For example, there is a character named Goli, played by Ava Lalezarzadeh. It's a class full of adults, but she's the youngest in the class, so there's kind of less at stake for her in terms of learning English and the reasons why she's doing it. Then we have characters like Elham, played by Tala Ashe, who struggles with learning English, but there's a lot of pressure on her because she's already been accepted to medical school. However, she also wants to go as a teacher's assistant, which requires her to pass the TOEFL. So there's kind of an economic motivation, which raises the stakes, especially for this character. I really enjoyed Elham's conflict with Marjan, the teacher of the group. Funny enough, the actress who plays Marjan, her name is also Marjan, Neshat. I really like this character. Very interesting ideas and themes kind of came out from watching this character progress in the show. The relationship between her and another student, Omid, I was a little nervous about where it was going, but it makes so much sense. I was actually very happy about how this was handled. Again, I thought Sanaz Toussi's writing and the way that she uses the character of Omid to tell us more about Marjan, it was so good, and I thought was very effective. And I think that Hadi Tobbal, who plays Omid, also does a really good job at sort of holding up his end of this theme in the show when it comes. I don't want to say much because I don't want to spoil anything. What I can say is that I think Elham and Omid represent Marjan's feelings towards English and towards Farsi. So I thought that that was really, really interesting in terms of how the conflict was sort of formed within this show. And Pooya Mohseni as Roya is so good. And I just have to say, I don't want to give any spoilers about this character, but I was so happy. I'm very happy for Pooya for being in this role, for being this character, and she does an absolutely fantastic job. It was funny. I'm a fan of horror movies, and I was like, is she from Terrifier? And yeah, that's her. She was. I was like, that. I was not expecting that. But again, very happy to see her here. Very happy that she's in this role. Broke my heart. Really, her story is a little, it's an ensemble piece, so no character story is really secondary, but I would say that this kind of falls into like the B storyline. But I just thought, again, the way it was performed, the way it's written, the story made me sad. But I just thought it was so beautifully done. So very happy. This whole cast, I think, it's hard for me to say like who I want to get nominated for a Tony Award, because I thought they all did a phenomenal job. I'd be okay with any of them walking away with the Tony nomination. I mean, like, let's see what happens. But I hope that there's some recognition here. I mean, a lot of these all of these actors, it's their Broadway debut. If there was a Tony Award for ensemble of a play, it's them. They got it. Their chemistry was incredible. Here is a view from my seat. I had an amazing $35 Rush ticket. I was so happy. He was like, hey, he was like, do you want a Rush ticket? It's front mezzanine. And I was like, do I? I will say, Todd Haimes Theater, I love it. The more center you are in the mezzanine, the harder of a time you're going to have if you need to get out of your seat for whatever reason during the show. That's because there's not multiple aisles. If you're going with anyone who you feel may need to get up and leave at some point, I would really explore seat options that are closer to the sides of the theater. Just my recommendation. Again, if you need to leave for whatever reason and you're sitting dead center, there are a lot of people that you are going to have to pass in order to get out. So I think it's not my favorite design of a theater, but the legroom is really good. And I also think that the view of the stage was awesome. I love seeing the classroom from that perspective. I thought that Marsha Ginsberg, who did the set, did a really great job. There was a one support post in one of the corners of the classroom that sometimes, oddly enough, just where I was sitting, it would sometimes obstruct a character's face if they were standing in a very specific area, or if there was writing on the whiteboard, it might obstruct that. I wonder if they could have done the set without that post being in the way, but again, it really was no big deal at all, but just something to be aware of. And I really loved seeing Reza Behjat's beautiful lighting design from this perspective as well. I mean, it's a very simple show in terms of lighting, but oh my goodness, there's a light that shines in through the windows. It's like the sun beaming in, and when the curtains, especially there's curtains in that classroom, when they're closed and the sun is beating through them and it's casting shadows over the desks and everything, I felt transported. I was like, this is so gorgeous. I absolutely loved it. So should you see English before it closes on March 2nd, unless it's extended? It's such a short run. I'm a little upset about it, actually. I want there to be a longer run. I hope that people get interested in this. I hope that you check it out based on my recommendation. I really do think that this is a show that is worth seeing. There are people in my life who've never been to Broadway, and I would point them in a different direction to see a show, right? I want them to have their first experience. But at the same time, if someone was like, hey, I really want to see a really great play that's, that's funny and it has a nice message, but is not too deep or not too emotionally draining, I would really recommend English to go and see. I think it's that good of a show. And okay, go get those Rush tickets. A way that you can kind of figure out if you're going to luck out by getting a Rush ticket, check the ticket website on the day that you want to go see the show and keep an eye on it. And if there seems to be a good number of tickets still available, there's a really high chance that you'll be able to walk away with that Rush ticket if you go to the box office and ask for it. So I do hope that you check out English, now playing at the Todd Haimes Theater until March 2nd. Again, unless it is extended, I would really love to read your thoughts in the comments section. I would also really appreciate it if you gave this video a thumbs up, and don't forget to check out some of my other reviews and theater related content on my channel. Thank you so much for watching, and remember to stay off your phones while at the theater.